live for our audience here at the BBC Maida Vale studios. As chief songwriter for Oasis, he led Britain's biggest band of the era and sold more than 70 million albums around the world. But after sibling conflict with singer Liam led to Oasis splitting up, he set out on his own in 2011 and released a debut solo album under the name Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. Noel, welcome to Master Tapes.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're here with Mikey Rowe, your keyboard player, for some stripped-back versions of the songs on the High Flying Birds album. And just a word about the name, first of all. That is the name of the act, isn't it? Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds and an album as well?
Yeah, there you go. It is, that's correct.
Now, what's the significance of the name? Because it suggests with birds, flight, freedom...
No. Anybody who knows me, well, I don't put that much thought into anything that I do. When I was thinking of a name, obviously, you know, going solo, your own name would be the most obvious thing. But I didn't think it was showbiz enough. One day I was by the sink in the kitchen and Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac had been on the radio. I thought, what if I was called Noel Gallagher's something? And I thought that was great. And then there's a very famous song by an old folk singer called Judy Hentz called High Flying Bird, which Jefferson Airplane had covered. And I was listening to that one afternoon. And, well, like a genius, what I did was I put the three things together. I thought, well,
there's a name.
That's amazing. When it came to the title for an album, I have to admit, I couldn't think of anything else.
Right. But I say freedom there and flight and movement, but I mean, those are the themes of some of the songs. There's this kind of a recurring theme of movement, of moving to somewhere else, of getting to a different place.
I didn't really realise that until right at the end, when I don't write lyrics down anymore. I kind of gave up doing that quite a few years ago. So all the lyrics that are used on the record, they're kind of in my head, you know what I mean? I'm not really making it up as I go along. I've already written them, but I've never really committed them to paper. So you have to kind of write your lyrics out and send them to publishers and all that for legal reasons. I was at home and I started to write them out in order of the songs. And it dawned on me then that there was quite a narrative to the record about you, us, we, whoever, you know. If I could put it like this, on a journey to find out whether the grass is greener on the other side and kind of getting there and then thinking, actually, maybe it's not. I was pretty knocked out by that because I can guarantee you, if I'd have tried to do that at the start,
it wouldn't have worked.
We wouldn't be sat here today talking about it.
Did you have a stockpile of songs ready to go for the album?
Always. I've had a stockpile of songs since 1993. I write all the time. I've never written for a specific project unless I'm working with somebody else. I've never been in the studio with less than 30 songs to choose from. So going back to the narrative of the album, which was amazing because they were the songs that I'd just not randomly chosen, but that fitted with the flow of the record. But I've always got a lot of songs. You know, I've just recorded an album. I've still got another 30 songs.
So a lot of the songs on the High Flying Birds, the first album, could have been Oasis songs in different circumstances.
They would have eventually have ended up on Oasis records. It was one of the problems towards the end of Oasis. You know, when everybody started to write songs, and rightly so, everybody should have a vested interest in the direction of the band we were all in. You know, instead of writing 15 or 16 songs for a cycle of where we were at, Oasis were using 5. But I was still writing 15, 20 songs, so there's loads of stuff left from those days. Albums and albums worth of material. I mean, not that were ever recorded or demoed, but I've got lots of songs. The bad thing about that is, because you move so fast as a writer, and you can only really do kind of 10 songs on an album at a time, lots get left behind. I mean, there's stuff out there on the internet that have been out there for years that will probably maybe never see the light of day now. You know?
Well, you say it's songs that have been bootlegged, you mean?
Things people have recorded at sound checks and demos have ended up leaking out there that are not on this record that I've got coming up soon, but they'll probably never see the light of day because I'll always have new stuff, do you know what I mean? So it's a shame, really, but tours get in the way of recording all the time, you know?
For anybody that's been in a group, a really successful group, the first solo album is a really significant moment. But just to take you back to 2009 and that split with the band, when you left, did you walk out and think straight away, I'm on my own now?
It was at a festival in Paris. It's well documented what went on. And I remember leaving the site and sitting in a car by the main gate with a driver. We kind of sat there for ages and he kept saying, well, what are we doing? What are we doing? And at the point where I was going to say, let's go, I knew that was it, that the band was over. Even on the long drive back to the hotel, I wasn't then thinking of this.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I was just thinking, what a shame, you know, what a shame. We had 2 gigs left of the entire tour. That was it, you know. But I wasn't thinking, you know, I'm going to go off now and be bigger than Sting or anything like that.
But it's interesting you say that was accidental, that those themes seem to kind of coalesce throughout the album, the idea of moving on somewhere else. And you start the album with Everybody's on the Run, which again seems to be, you could look at it almost in that way as the protagonist leaving somewhere a significant moment and heading out on their own. But again, that was a sort of accidental.
I've got to say, I wish I could. Honestly, if I was to sit down and try and write an album about the situation I found myself in, it would be awful. That's not the way that I do things. I'm the king of winging it, and I've been winging it since 1993, and I'm really making up each day as it goes along. As I collected the songs and made an album out of it, luckily for me, it kind of captured something. But Everybody's on the Run was written in a hotel room in South America. I think it was Venezuela. I know I was in that hotel room, and it kind of probably came together over a few days, but other than that, I'm not really that sure where it comes from. Noodling on the guitar because we were told not to leave our hotel room. There's an armed security guard outside the hotel room. Not because of Liam or anything, but because they do have kidnappings over there.
Right, yeah.
You're left to your own devices watching Venezuelan TV. I'm not sure even where the line comes from, Everybody's on the Run. Because when I write songs, I may sing 50 first lines of that song. And the one that sticks, you know, and you can't find the feeling, that just keeps coming back up and back up and back up. And that's obviously what it is.
You can't find the feeling, and all is the same. The pouring rain, you know.
And what you also have is a brilliant ability to come up with a really cracking melody right from the outset, right from the first Oasis songs. You were marked out as a fantastically melodic songwriter. And we got it there in Everybody's on the Run, so you start off with a very catchy verse, and then there's a kind of a bridge line, and then you build again. That's quite a trick.
What happens is I'll have played the 3 chords around the intro, and that sets, I think, right, oh, wow, that's great. And then I'll be thinking of things going off. And then once I'll have settled on a melody, then going into the chorus is never dictated by the chords, ever.
Everybody's on the run.
It's dictated by the melody. After the initial explosion of 2, 3, 4, 5 chords, whatever it might be, then the melody takes over. Then the song's writing itself. And I'm as much in awe of that as I hope people are listening to it, because I really don't know where it's going half the time.
Hanging there, love, you gotta hold on, 'cause everybody's on the run, everybody's on the run, and everybody's on the run, everybody's on the run.
But it's a really yearning lyric as well. It's a very heartfelt lyric.
It's great. When I'd finished the song, I thought, well, that's amazing, and I was suddenly thinking of like the cinema and it being very cinematic.
Yeah, because it's got an epic sound, the production of Everybody's on the Run. It's got the strings. It's also got a very large choir as well.
The Crouch End Choir, yeah. I'd seen them playing with Ennio Morricone at the Albert Hall. On the last Oasis record, we kind of hinted at it a little bit. But when you're making records by committee, it's like if, you know, you're in a band with 5 people and 3 people are not into a choir, they end up getting mixed down on the record.
Hanging there, love, you gotta hold on, you gotta be strong enough for more.
You get to do your own stuff, you can do whatever you want. You know, so.
Hanging there, love, you gotta hold on, you gotta be strong enough for love, and you know. Hanging there, love, you gotta hold on.
I want to take this
You
opportunity
gotta be
to challenge
strong
the pastoral
enough for
family.
love, and you know.
I also want to challenge
Hanging
DJ
there,
Dylan. I want to challenge my
You
brother,
gotta hold
Joey Vasquez, as well as Michael Vasquez, and my sister.
Everybody's on the run. Everybody's on the run. Everybody's on the run. Everybody's on the run.
Everybody's on the Run by Noel Gallagher live at Maida Vale for Master Tapes. Noel Morrissey says that very often his songs start with the title. And I'm wondering, you know, with that one, Everybody's on the Run, and some of the other titles, like The Death of You and Me on this album as well. Do they ever start with that?
Morrissey, I guess, would be very typical of a lyricist because, you know, all they write is lyrics. I don't say that's all they write, you know, but they write words and melodies. Guitarists will start with the music. Right. I always start with the music, then the melody, and then I follow the melody then the chords kind of disappear a little bit. They're just a starting point to get me somewhere with a melody. The titles are irrelevant.
Really?
They don't serve any purpose. You wouldn't not buy a song because it had a rubbish title, would you? You know, if Don't Look Back in Anger was called, I don't know, Donuts or Amusing or something, you wouldn't. It's still write that title down, by the way. It's still a great song. It's like, you know, that I'm having trouble with the title for this next record of mine. You know, no one's not going to buy it because of the title. And by the same rule, no one's going to buy it because of the title. So
you start with the chords, you've got the melody going through your head, and you suggested before that the words are already there. So you're not constantly writing, filling notebooks up with stories.
I gave up the actual writing a long time ago. I don't like writing. I don't know, there's something that's too rigid about it for me. I know you can kind of keep scrubbing things out and going back to them, but even the thought of writing something down is too much of a commitment to me.
But you can keep all of those words in your head then, because if you're going to the studio, as you've said, with 50 songs, they can all be there. You can pick up a guitar, you can think, well, there's that one that might make a B-side, and you instantly know the lyrics.
Yeah, much to the amazement of everybody I've ever worked with, producers have said, so where's the lyrics?
Yeah.
Because they want a set of lyrics as well in front of them. I've been in the studio with people who've, like, reams, books, all over the place, you know. It's a funny thing, as soon as when I'm in the studio, in my head I know I've worked out, I've sang it to myself 1,000 times, so I know what it is. But there still is the sense of maybe this might not sound great when I hear it back for the first time, because really, when you're kind of writing at home, you're kind of effectively doing a gig for yourself, you know.
Do you always have a guitar at home? Is there always one to hand?
Yeah.
At any given moment, there might be something happening.
There's one in the toilet, but there's one in... I've never had a music room. I don't have anything like that. I must have a lock-up somewhere with about 1 million 4-track machines in them that I just... I always think, right, this is it. This is it now. I'm going to learn a 4-track. Any monkey can work a 4-track. Yeah. Any idiot. The minute a manual pops out of anything, that's just... A manual? No, that's like having a proper job, isn't it? And then they just end up gathering dust in the corner. And luckily, I've got recall for music. Although saying that, I can't remember what I did yesterday afternoon, but with songs, it's easy for me. A lot of songwriters, they write chords first, you know. Yeah. Chords are boring, do you know what I mean? They've all been done before. You know, a melody, if you're just pulling it out of the sky, it's an amazing thing, you know. Really
Did you always have that as a kid? Was there always a melody going through your head, can you remember, even before you picked up a guitar?
That's just the way I write, you know. I've never studied songwriting. There's a great book called Isle of Noises. Not I Love Noises, like the island we live on, Isle of Noises. And it's a lad who'd managed to interview, like, loads of songwriters. Me, Weller, Johnny Marr, Ray Davies, Paul McCartney, Pete Townsend, Sting, everybody. And it's all about the craft of songwriting. Every single person has a different way of doing it. Yeah. And there is no set rules. It's such a gift. It's the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me, is the gift to do that. It's brilliant.
And is there always a song, is there always a melody going on in your head, even when you're talking?
Yeah, my wife will just, I've been out at dinner, you know, and then the next thing is I'm kind of banging on bottles of water and glasses and all sorts.
In a restaurant?
Full of people. Right. And she just gets her phone out. Because you shout when you get to the middle eight, will you?
Just take us back to growing up. For those that don't know, you grew up in Burnage, in the suburb of Manchester, and the very first sort of musical influences, people always presume it's the Beatles, the first thing that you heard, because a lot of those Beatles melodies seem to kind of have worked their way through in a lot of the Oasis work, particularly.
That's one way of putting it, yeah. My dad was a country and western DJ, so he had a big record collection. And we were never into playing records and all that, not when you're kind of young. My first musical influence, I don't know, really, probably punk, you know what I mean? But I came to writing music very, very late, you know, and that benefited me in a way. I didn't make my first album until I was 27. So I had 20 years of my musical development to draw on, which is why Definitely Maybe is kind of, it's just an amalgam of, like, you know, everything that I listen to, punk, T-Rex, David Bowie, you know, everything. But I listen to all sorts. You'd be amazed. I mean, people do always think that I'm kind of walking around the house singing Yellow Submarine in a Sgt. Pepper's moustache.
That's just Thursday.
Well, that's reserved for Beatles Sunday. I rarely listen. Do you know what? I put on the Beatles the other day for the first time in a couple of years, and do you know what? Brilliant.
They're good, aren't they?
Absolutely amazing.
You don't hear country and western in anything, I don't think. I think that's never filtered through, is it?
Yeah, there's a bit. Maybe on the B-side, I think I'd Pick You Every Time was kind of, in its essence, a kind of country song, I suppose.
Yeah.
But all those old records that my dad used to have one great thing with, so they're all very, very memorable melodies.
And you were working on a building site, I think, with your dad, and then there was a story that you got injured, you had time out, you had a guitar by that time, and you started writing songs. And that was a very productive time then, was it?
I was working for a firm in Manchester, which is a big Irish contractors thing, and they put in gas mains. We used to dig the trenches. The end of a gas main fell on my foot, this right foot, one afternoon, and I was on the sick for months. And then when I got back off the sick, I was kind of put in a storeroom, and I used to bring my guitar to work. Nobody ever visited that storeroom for some reason. And if they did, they were looking for, you know, nuts and bolts and washers and all that kind of gear. I used to sit and write songs all day. It was amazing.
Would Live Forever have come from that time? Rock and Roll Star?
Probably in the germs of it, yeah. Maybe not Rock and Roll Star. I wouldn't have written that on acoustic guitar, I don't think. Maybe Live Forever. Yeah, actually, around that time. Because around that time, then I kind of left that job and went off being a roadie in Spiral Carpets.
Right. And Live Forever is another one of those songs, that way that you start off with a very strong melody and it builds again and then lifts it into a different place by the time you get to the chorus. I mean, writing a song like that, was that a eureka moment? Did that feel like a breakthrough with that song in particular?
Yeah, but that song changed everything for Oasis. For the 2 years before that, we were kind of one kind of band, and I was writing one particular kind of song. I guess the term was coined baggy, I suppose. And I wrote that one night and took it to the rehearsal room the next day. The look on Liam's face when I sang the falsetto bit was something I'll never forget. Who's singing that then?
He didn't on the record. You do that bit.
No, he does it on the record.
Does
He did it. He did it for about 6 months, and he did it brilliantly. Because he's such a lad. And for him to kind of do it was, you'd see people go, wow, you know. And then overnight he gave it up because it wasn't manly enough for him, I don't know. And then I had to do it, and it was just the most ridiculous thing I had to do for 20 years. Was just go to the mic for that one bit.
Did you know instantly with that song? Do you think
Yes.
that's my first classic?
I wouldn't have put it in those terms, but I know enough about music to know, and I certainly know enough about indie music to know that that is as good as it gets in the field that we're in. Yeah, I knew it. And I knew it. Rock and Roll Star, all those songs, I knew it.
Was it the same going back to do the High Flying Birds album? Was there a similar feeling? Because you have to prove yourself. The first time you're in the studio, nobody's heard
I knew it. Because I'd made so many records. I was out in LA for 4 months, and when you're out there, you kind of adopt an LA lifestyle. I wasn't drinking. I was there on my own, barely went out. I came back feeling fit and strong. And listening back to that album, I thought, this is a moment in time, and I'll be very, very lucky if I capture it again, ever. I know what it's like when you're in the middle of things that just take off and you have no control over it. I've done it before, twice with Oasis. I did it, and I remembered it. And I knew coming back. I knew when I was mixing The Death of You and Me, I just knew it. No one was going to touch me after that record.
Which is, we should just say, I mean, that's a single, and it's got a really different kind of beat. It's got almost like a New Orleans jazz.
I don't know what it
swing
is. I don't know what it is. I remember listening to the playback in LA and thinking, I can only balls it up from here. Look at the singles off this High Flying Birds album. 5 of the best singles I've ever had. And I just felt it. I was so confident. And it was all to do with the record. I knew it. And, you know, I drove people mad. You know, I do like to blow my own trumpet a little bit. And a lot of the time it's not deserved. That's a lot of bluster. There is times when I'm thinking this isn't great. It just is. There's a song that's coming out on a new record called The Dying of the Light. As I was writing it, every line that I sang, it just all flowed. And I was shocked and amazed. After I'd written Everybody's on the Run and If I Had a Gun and The Death of You and Me, there's always a kind of little bit of a, for me anyway, sadness, because I think, oh, I can't do anything better than that. That's got to be it. I've got to dry up after that. So then when something else comes along and you know it's great, you feel it's great, I get a wave of happiness.
Do you have writer's block at all? Have there been moments where you just haven't been able to write anything for a period of time?
Not with music. I've got to say, I'm doing stuff at the minute where I've worked on a record where I've done all the backing tracks, and they're fantastic. It's for a different project altogether, and I can't write a single word for it because I'm not connected to it, because I've already done the backing tracks and I listen to them that much. I just like them as instrumentals.
What is this, a film soundtrack or something?
No, it'd be an album if I ever get it finished, but I've maybe written 2 lines for 10 tracks. But I don't get writer's block because I'm not chasing it. That was the best bit of advice that was ever given to me, and it was by Weller. He said, just don't go looking for it. you know, and if you go looking for it, you're not going to find it. You know, it's like kind of, you know, watching the clock go around. You never see the end. You know, if you don't watch a clock, it's time just passes, doesn't it? It's why I can never, when I'm in the studio and so we'll just write something. I can't do that, you know what I mean? I'm kind of, it's got to fall out of the sky for me, which is why when I'm out at dinner or having lunch with the kids or something and it finds me, that's it, I've got to go, you know, and I've got to get it down somehow. I've often wondered, it's a fascinating thing where you can go into a studio and, well, all right, well, I'll meet you at the studio Tuesday and we'll write a song. I'd love to be able to do that.
You never do that?
I'd love to be able to do it, but I can't do it. I tried. I've done it well. I've kind of, a few times, you know, I'll come down Thursday, we'll write something. I can never write anything.
So everything you've ever recorded and released, you've pre-written, you've gone into the studio with the songs absolutely finished?
Always. There's no leeway for any outside influence at all, ever.
But you said a moment ago, you felt at times recording this album that it was out of your control, it was just happening. But paradoxically, you had total control for the first time. Because, of course, when you're with a band, you're having to hand over the ideas to your bandmates and allow them to take over your, you know. Did that not feel like a totally different musical process?
No, I enjoyed being in a band. I still yearn to be in a band. Being in a band is brilliant, and it's so much more powerful being in a band. When you're a solo artist, people automatically assume you've got something to say. Every time I pick up an acoustic guitar, I'll be like, shh, it's got something to say. I haven't got anything to say. I've got nothing to say to anybody. When I was making this High Flying Birds record, it was just a new thing for me. I wasn't thinking, wow, it's great that I can get to sing all the songs, or it's great that I can do whatever I want in the studio. Because trust me, Oasis was amazing. Right up until that night in Paris, it was amazing. But the main thing was the studio was nice and quiet. It was nice and peaceful.
Calm.
You know,
no rows.
just very, very calm, and yeah.
But did it allow you, though, having total creative control, to take it into new musical territories in a way that you wouldn't have been able to do if your brother had been there? And I'm thinking with the sort of the New Orleans horns and that kind
the
of
fact of the matter is this. That would never have been an album had I stayed in Oasis. They would have been certain tracks dotted around certain albums. I Had a Gun maybe would have been done by Oasis, and What a Life may have been done on a Record Machine, but they would have never been in a collection of songs. So, you know, thank God for that. Do you know what I mean? But I've always felt creative freedom anyway. Even when I was in Oasis, you kind of got to do what you want. But you were kind of restricted in that way by being a stadium band, because you've always got to play it in stadium, so you kind of tend to lean towards stadium rock.
You mentioned the song If I Had a Gun a few moments ago, and I mean, it's a very kind of minor key, introspective song, and one that I guess you had written sometime before, because there's a story that it had appeared on the internet, hadn't it? You'd done it as a sound check at an Oasis gig.
On that South American tour, and somebody had caught a bit of it, maybe a minute and a half of it. I'd put it up on the internet, and it still sounded good. It still sounds good to this day, that sound check version.
Yeah. Did you mind that, though? I mean, somebody is recording your song.
I mean, I've got to say, there might be about a dozen things I should really have taken down off the internet. But, you know, before this record that's coming out now is out, there's a thing on the internet. It just says new album demos leaked, you know, and there's 11, but none of them are off this record. And if they were, I would have had them taken down. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But they're out there now, and I don't really mind that. You know, they're for fans, isn't it? It's there. It takes too much energy to fanny about trying to get somebody to sue somebody to get them taken down. I've already moved on from that. I wrote that on the same South American tour as Everybody's on the Run. Now, this is one of the ones that I do remember. I was in a hotel room in Peru, in Lima.
If I had a gun, I'd shoot a hole into the sun, and love would burn this city down for you. If I had the time, I'd stop the world and make you mine, and every day would stay the same with you.
And I thought I was being a genius when I came up with the title of If I Had a Gun and put it in, and then there's about 90 songs called If I Had a Gun, I realised when I got back to England.
But it's a love song, though, isn't it? I mean, the title doesn't give that
Yeah.
away, but it is quite an introspective and very heartfelt love song.
I love it.
I give you back a dream, I show you now what might have been, if all the tears you cry would fade away, away.
Again, I was just sat indoors and I played the opening 3 chords I played a billion times before and still intend to play another billion times before I die. They're just chords I can get songs out of.
Excuse me if I spoke too soon, my eyes have always followed you around the room, 'cause you're the only God that I will ever need.
3 chords came, then the melody, and then the melody takes over, and off we went. You know, songs, when I'm writing them, they suggest a mood to me. That's all it is, for weeks or days, or however long it takes. It's just a mood, and that's quite a plaintive, to me, romantic. When it gets to the chorus, it's kind of very uplifting and spiritual, but it's kind of quite holy as well, I suppose.
I hope I didn't speak too soon. My eyes have always followed you around the room, 'cause you're the only God that I will ever need. I'm holding on for the moment, for my heart to be unbroken by the sea.
We'll continue this conversation in the second part, the B-side, when the Maida Vale studio audience here get to ask the questions. You can hear that tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 here on Radio 4. But for now, my thanks to Noel Gallagher.
Let me fly you to the moon. My eyes have always followed you around the room, 'cause you're the only God that I will ever need. I'm holding on and waiting for the moment to find me.
Master Tapes was presented by John Wilson and the producer was Paul Kobrak. And if you'd like to hear the tracks Noel Gallagher and Mickey Rowe played at Maida Vale uninterrupted and in their entirety, you can go to the Master Tapes website. And you can hear the second part of the programme tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. This is BBC Radio 4. Now to Westminster,